Hey y'all, I'm back. It was really funny. So, space brain as usual. At the Arnold, there were so many people who were like, hey y'all, and like walked up to me and totally knew me from that, which is really funny. It's just kind of my intro. I never really know what else to say. It just kind of comes out. So that's what it's gonna say with. So, hey y'all, I'm sorry I've been MIA. I feel like literally every time I post a video, I say this, so I'm gonna stop saying it because I'm gonna be more consistent. I promise. I really do enjoy making the content for you guys because I know everyone really appreciates it. Again, thank you everyone who came up to me at the Arnold and said that you love my videos. That means the world to me because I know that they're not like super cool, super fancy, but I try to put out good information, so that's really what's important here. So first of all, thank you guys so much. If I saw any of you at the Arnold, big hugs, and I didn't totally lose my voice this year. I mean, of course it got like raspy and gross because my voice is always gross, but it wasn't like last year, which was absolutely miserable. So where I wasn't really by like a ton of music, which I think was major key to not losing my voice completely. So today's video is going to be a little bit different, and I actually got a few comments about this recently and even some emails about it, which was just so interesting to me. But people were asking about the business side of things, how I run my business, and I guess that's just, I guess I never think of myself as somebody who you would look to business advice for, but I have been running a business for several years. I've learned a lot. I've made a lot of mistakes. Luckily, not enough to like, lose my business or anything like that, but I have made mistakes. So I kind of wanted to share with you guys a little bit of that journey, what it looked like, and then a few key points that I think anyone who has any business should set up, I guess kind of like guidelines or parameters. And I think that has really helped me be more efficient and be a better coach to everyone and just a better business person in general. So my first ever client was my friend Lizette, and we were both at Florida State, and we were talking, and she's like, I want you to be my coach. And I was like, what? What do you mean? And I had been working with Lane for a little while at this point, and so I had a coach, and it was just crazy to me that she wanted me to coach her. So I started with that, just one client, and I didn't really have any kind of system set up. I pretty much was using what I had known with Lane, and okay, like we have a weekly update, and you send in all this information. So I kind of like created my own little thing, and that's kind of what we did. And from there, I gradually added like another person and then another person, and they were, nothing was really official. It was very, very small, and I mean, literally like a few people small, and I wouldn't even have called myself really a coach, but then I graduated from Florida State, so I'd been doing this for a little while, and even while the business was small, I was still like learning things. Like every single client was a new learning experience for me, which was really cool. And if you are doing this or you're doing anything new in business, use each client or each interaction, whatever that may look like for you, as a learning experience, because you really can, you're going to evolve so much as a business person. And of course, certain methods always stay true, but how you execute them may be different. So I did that for, I'd say probably like about a year. And like I said, just a few clients here and there, just helping people out that I knew. And so that was really cool. And then I started grad school, and I was prepping for nationals, and that's when I turned pro. And after I turned pro, Lane and Paul very much urged me that I should start the coaching thing like legit. And so I got the LLC made, and I started the Facebook page, and I was like, okay, I got a website. So I went on GoDaddy, so I got laurenconlin.com because I wanted Logo Fit, but that was taken, and basically someone was sitting on it and they aren't using it, which is very aggravating to me, but it wasn't available, so we did laurenconlin.com. Nobody has my name, so that worked. I bought the domain, and then I also bought the website builder. So on GoDaddy, I will talk so highly of them because they have helped me. Anytime you have a problem, customer service is there for you as far as like calling, or you can like online talk to them, which I'm not really big on. I'd rather just call someone. And I'm not techie in the least, at like zero tech skills, and I made the website. So it was very basic, very plain, almost like I would consider it an online business card. I kept what I thought was appropriate information on there, but there was so many things that I left out, so many details, but I had made it, and at that point I was like, you know what, this is kind of the best I can do. And within the website builder, there are constrictions, like you can't just like make whatever you want, of course. So, or maybe you can, I just can figure that out, which might be the case. But in any case, I had a very, very basic, plain website, and that's what I used honestly for for years. So even though it wasn't the best and it wasn't super interactive and all these things, that's where I started. And I would encourage anyone to, if you don't have a web designer or you don't have the money to get a web designer, don't think that you need some fancy website, because honestly, like, I used that for maybe 2 years or so, and it worked great. Actually, yeah, I did use it for 2 years fully, because I developed it at the end of 2014, and then I just got my new website in the beginning of 2017. So yeah, 2 years, you guys, on this online business card that I would call it. Very, very basic, but it did its purpose, and I got to kind of create it myself, and it was like $80 or something. It was very, very cheap, very affordable, and I got to customize anything that I wanted within the constraints. But so if you're starting out and you maybe don't have a budget for a new web designer, go to GoDaddy. Get the website, buy the domain first. Of course, you need the domain, and then get the website builder, and then you can kind of go from there. Again, only talk highly of them because it was so user-friendly, which is very important for me. From the time that I started at the end of 2014, like, again, officially, I'd already been doing it for like over a year, but it was very, very small. So now I was like, okay, I'm gonna take on clients, and I still wanted to keep it relatively small because I was in grad school, so that wasn't my main focus, but I wanted to have something kind of built up so that when I did graduate, I wasn't like, what the hell am I gonna do? And it was really good, I think, that I kept it very small, because then at that point, I could really focus on that. Of course, focus on school, number one, but then kind of get the kinks out of how I did things. Just basically like how I set everything up. And, from everything from an update system versus an email system. I use an update system where people have like a login information, and then I answer things that way. That works a lot better for me. And then eventually, like just streamlining the process, streamlining like how I did things. And I realized very early on that even though this is a very, there's no rules for online coaching. So it was really like open territory, but I realized early on that I need structure, and otherwise, like, I just don't do well. Within my like very flexible life, I have a lot of structure also, which is very interesting, but I need that kind of structure. So from the time that I started to now, fast forward, I've, figured out that everyone has an update day. Everyone has an update time. You send everything in before that time. So that was something that Eric Helms really urged me to do. That was last year. I just figured this out last year. So this is a big learning process, y'all. He was like, why don't you have update times? And I was like, I don't know. And that's something that him and 3DMJ do. They say, okay, you send in your update on X day, and then send it in before X time, and then if it comes in after X time, then you'll get to it as a coach the next day. And I feel that is really appropriate, because he's like, we're the only people in the world that don't have like a schedule. And I understand, life happens, like, if somebody, can't send me in an update or whatever it is by a certain time, but for the most part, most people can, and that usually works out like really well. So setting those guidelines, at first I was like, oh my God, this is like so nerve-wracking, and everyone's gonna like freak out, or even when I switched to like certain times, I was all nervous about that, or days. But really, like, giving people structure, they actually don't mind it either. So now I have, okay, you send in your update on X time, you send in X day, and then before X time, and then that way I can get to everything appropriately. So what I find a lot of people don't do is they don't set limitations, and then people will constantly email them, or they will constantly just like, everything is just a very different week. So now I know, okay, on Monday through Thursday, I have these people sending me their updates. I do Monday through Thursday for me because I do travel quite a bit, and that usually ends up being on the weekends. And then if I'm not traveling, then what I'll do is I will just like create content, or like right now, or I'll just work on new projects or new plans or whatever it may be. So I do like to give myself that kind of, those days. Designating days is so, so important, y'all. Again, this is not just for clients, but this is just for any kind of work that you have. Designate days and times to do things. So, because if you're like me, that gets like super jumbled, and you get crazy feeling, and you're like, oh my God, like you just never feel caught up, and you always feel like you're, you're just like, see, I'm getting all anxious just thinking about it. Like, I don't even know the word, but you just don't feel focused, and you're just less productive. So everything in life, you should be productive with what you're doing. So if you have a system in place, having people check in on a certain day before a certain time really, really helped me. And also just telling people in the beginning, like from the beginning, this is what to expect. This is what you will get, and then if they don't like it, then okay, thank you so much, and then there's other coaches that can maybe meet your needs in that way. So now, directly on my website, I'll get to that in a bit, thank you to Eric. So I now have everything that I would have had previously that I wasn't on the website, and it, before each package it says this is what's included. There is a once a week update where you answer all these questions that I need to know about your week, and then you can ask me questions then. I set it up that way because it works best for me. I'm not saying that every single coach does this, and I'm not saying that everyone needs this, but for me, I would rather work longer on one update than answering sporadically emails here and there. For me, again, that just kind of works for me, and if people don't like it, I say that even on the website before you signed up, so people know, what they're getting into. So setting expectations, I think, is so crucial. And before I used to be like, oh, I wonder what people are going to think about that, and they really don't mind as long as you tell them from the beginning. Like, don't be like, oh, 24/7 email contact, and then you either A, never answer, which is most of the time what people do, or B, you say that from the beginning and then you change it, like, oh, hey, I can't do this. So no, I say it from the beginning. You have a once a week update, and then you send in your questions at that point, and everything is timely. That I'm timely because you organize things, and then I can get to everyone appropriately. If I'm spastic, everyone's gonna get a spastic answer. So you have to figure out what works for you, and every single person is different. So every single coaching style is gonna be a little bit different. But I would really encourage people not to try and copy what I'm doing, but to try and sit down with yourself and say, okay, do I like what Lauren is saying? Do I not like what Lauren is saying? And really just take the principles from it. For me, I need structure and organization and kind of know what my weekly schedule is going to look like. And then that helps me a lot. And that was something that really took, like I said, like over 2 years to develop. In the beginning, things were small enough that I was just kind of figuring it out as I went along. But in the past 2 years, I've really kind of amped up the coaching, and now it is, of course, what I do full time since I graduated last May. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that I graduated last May. And so it is really important, I found, to have these systems, and that's not something that's really talked about that much. And a lot of it because you do need to learn for yourself, trial and error, what works for you and your business and your clientele or your products, whatever it may be. But for me, I've heard so many people talk about, oh my gosh, you answered my email so quickly. I think it is super appropriate to answer most emails between 24 and 48 hours, unless there is some upheaval in my life that I can't control and there's some crazy stuff going on, right? Then that would be understandable that I didn't get to emails. But for the most part, 24 to 48 hour rule is my emails. But I can do that because I tell clients, hey, please follow these guidelines. If people were sending me emails all the time, I may not be able to get to them as quickly as possible. So that's something to take into consideration if you have a coach or you had a coach who maybe you're like, oh my gosh, they haven't gotten back to me. And that could be because there was no system set up. So they were just getting emails like left and right and couldn't figure it out. So, it's still it's inexcusable to not answer emails like within a week or something. Like I hear about these stories. But, really think, okay, like what is the best system to set up for me, for my life, and go from there. If you do go on my website, you will also see that I do lifestyle consults, which are essentially Skype-based consults that are, so if somebody maybe doesn't want coaching, we have a one-on-one Skype for an hour. They fill out like a normal questionnaire that I'd get. We kind of go over guidelines or any questions that they have, kind of give them a place to start, and then usually I'll pair that with something else that I offer, which is a one-time macro consult. So we'll go through and we'll answer all these questions, kind of give them a timeline, and then I'll also calculate macros for them, give them kind of a little bit of a progression on whatever their goals are, and then kind of go from there. So that's an option for people who don't want coaching, a non-coaching option. And so I have to factor in those in my daily week, and then also posing. So I'd offer posing and stage consults too. So for people who are offering things like that, for me, this is all Skype-based, 100%. I don't do any in-person at this point. So everything is online and Skype-based, so I have to also schedule that into my schedule. So another thing, that is very variable. Like my clients, everything is kind of set up like in a certain way. But the posing and anything Skype-based or the consults are very, very like dynamic. And some weeks I may have more than others. So that can cause a little bit of anxiety. But when it's competition season, and I absolutely love helping people with these types of things. And I really do enjoy the lifestyle consults too, because, not everyone wants a coach. Not everyone needs a coach. And sometimes people just want, a place to start and just kind of figure it out and ask someone questions and then kind of do their own thing. So it works out really, really well. But those are things that you need to factor in. So for me, if you are somebody who offers maybe consults or anything via Skype, or even if it is in person, what I've found is that I do best when I set up like, okay, I'm going to do XYZ days this week. and just pick a few days and then pick a few time slots, and then I tell people like, hey, this is what I have available this week, and then if they can't do it that week, then we'll look at the next week, or something along those lines. So it's not, again, there is some kind of structure. There is certain days where I will not do posing, and then there's some days where I have a few lined up back to back, and then I like to do it that way. So whatever works for you. If you're somebody who's like, okay, I'd rather do one thing once a day, or I'd rather do like 3 in a day and then have the next day off. Again, systems. You need a system, and you need to figure out, otherwise you're going to be so overwhelmed with trying to, answer updates and answer regular emails that you get, answer inquiries, and then do Skypes, and then train, make sure you meal prep, all these things. So you have to, have a system, have a schedule. The beauty of working online is that I can do it anywhere at any time. The downside of working online is I have to do it anytime, anywhere. So there are definitely pros and cons to it. That I think for me, there's more pros. But if I didn't have a schedule, it would just be total chaos, and I would have a mental breakdown. So as I mentioned, I have a brand new website that Eric Young created for me. He is absolutely amazing, and I am very particular, and so is he, so that worked out very nicely. He is the head videographer at Blackstone Labs, and we've become friends over time, and then I mentioned wanting a new website, and he's like, oh, I could probably help you with that. So he's awesome with IT stuff, and he made my website look amazing. So there's a lot more information on there now. We have video links for every package. Everything just looks visually appealing, and it's a lot more user-friendly for people, and it's also more user-friendly for me as far as like cutting down on time, because everything is laid out on the website, but it still looks nice, and it's not just like a wall of text. So he did an amazing job with that. Thank you again, Eric. And so that was, but I just did this, right? So I survived all these years on just the website builder website. So it's not necessary to do it. Sorry, that is my coffee maker going off. It's telling me that it's been on for too long. I didn't turn it off. Whoopsies. So I just got this, and it's made my life a lot easier. But again, that is an investment in your business. And if you don't necessarily have the capital, it's okay. If you look at someone who just has a brand new site, don't be like, oh my gosh, I have to start there, which is leading to my next point of content and what to do. And part of my business is, of course, the number one part of my business is coaching clients. But then on top of it, I have all the other things that I do, which is all content related, competition related, lifestyle related, whatever it may be. So I've never been someone who is who thrives on social media. I honestly, I feel like I was born in the wrong time era, because sometimes I'm like, I just don't want to do this at all. And even when people were creating Facebooks and MySpaces, I never had any of that. I hated it. I was like, I don't want to be a part of this. So for me, this is all still new, and I've been doing it for a while now, but it's still every single time I make a video, or every single time I make a post, or I'm trying to do something, it's still pushing me out of my comfort zone. And it's not necessarily something that's just part of my life. It is a part of my life because I make it a part of my life. But it is, it is very challenging for me to do that also. So it's not easy for me, and particularly because I look at other people's stuff, and even the videos, and you guys, if you've been following along for a long time, you know that all my videos look like this. I'm sitting here. They actually started on my phone, which was a way less quality phone than this, and I would just set it up, and I would literally press start, and I wouldn't even edit that out. I would start and then be like, oh hey, and then I'd pause it, and I would just upload it from there. So my video started like that. I now have a nice camera, nice-ish, it's not the best camera in the world, but it's nice. But I still don't do fancy edits. I don't take it places, I'm not a vlogger. That's just not me. So what I would encourage anyone who has a business is to find out what you like, and find out what you don't like, and don't feel like you have to do something that you don't like. And yes, there are times where I'm like, oh man, this would be really cool to have a lifestyle video and do this, but at the end of the day, I have so many other things going on that I would rather focus on my strengths. And this is, I rather, create content that I like, and create educational content. That's my number one thing. That's what I can add to the industry. So that's what I try to focus on. So whether it's through a post or whether it's through a video, it might not be the most visually appealing. It might not be the best, but to me, if there's content in it that is quality, then that's important to me. So I wanted to make this video partially to explain kind of the background of my business and how things operate, and really give you guys tips on not necessarily how to follow what I'm doing, but here's what I do and here's why. So again, the systems are so important, and setting up boundaries and guidelines for yourself and your clients is the number one takeaway from the video. The second takeaway from the video is, when you are doing a business that is, whether it's in the fitness industry, that's where I was getting a lot of the questions from these people, you know, like, oh, make videos on your business. So I know if they're on social media, they're probably like posting and have channels and have all these things. So you have to do things that you like and you enjoy, and don't feel like you have to do something because someone else is doing it. That's the number one thing that will drive even me to not do something like, oh, my videos aren't as good as so-and-so's, or I don't have as many subscribers, or like, oh, I didn't do all this cool editing. But you just have to start. The best advice I ever got was from Rob Bailey. And he's definitely not watching this video. Shout out to Rob Bailey. Me and Ryan went to the Flag Nor Fail camp, and we were talking with him kind of one-on-one, and he was like, just start, like just do something. Like it doesn't matter what it is. In 3 days, people forget about it. So you can continue to get better. And I was like, man, this is like really good advice. And of course, like when you hear it now, you're like, oh, duh, but it sometimes takes a certain person to like say it and for it to resonate. So hopefully me talking to you guys, this is resonating. So if you take nothing else away from the video, just start is my suggestions. And I know that sounds like so like, oh, of course, just start. You've been doing it for years. It seems so simple. And no. I'm learning every single day. I'm pushing outside of my comfort zone every single day when I do things. And there's times like where I don't want to change how I'm doing things, but you have to in order to better the company and better yourself and better the content you do. But just starting is better than not starting. I highly encourage everyone to check out Gary Vee if you haven't. I mean, of course, everyone probably has who's watching this, but Gary Vaynerchuk is amazing, and he puts out a lot of awesome content, and just hearing how he talks about things and has been so helpful for me, and kind of how I looked. I'm like I just told Ryan this yesterday. I was like, I'm the most narrow-minded, open-minded person there is, because sometimes I'm very open-minded to things, but I can get, we can all get so stuck in our ways, and it's nervous. It's nervous. That's not even English. It can really make you nervous to try to push outside of what you've been doing. But I would just start, y'all. And it can always get better. If you go back to my old videos, like I said, it was just me and the phone, and not like there's much editing now, but there was like no editing then. I still don't even really use my camera for like high quality. If you go through my Instagram, it's not like high quality photos. I should probably start doing more of those, but it's still just kind of like, I'm just putting out what I want to put out that day and whatever works. I had a very, very basic website for many years before I, got this new one. So just start and consistently evolve your approach. Not necessarily, how, you can always want to do things a certain way from like an ethical standpoint, but as far as like the business goes, you always need to be evolving it and trying new things and seeing what works best for you, because you have to be efficient and you need to be organized. Otherwise, things are never gonna get done. Organization is so, so key. And yes, I'm type A, I'm a very organized person, but I also am very scatterbrained at the same time. So maybe I'm like bipolar, I don't know. No, just kidding. I promise I'm not bipolar. But I have two sides to me of everything. So I'm very organized, but I'm also very scatterbrained and like squirrel and crazy. And as you guys know, if you watch, that's really how I am in real life too. So I have to have things that like keep me on track and systems and things set up. So many people kind of overlook that and they're like, oh, let me just take on all these clients. Let me just start small, but start with your client base, start with whatever your product you're selling. And then as you go, you learn, and then you can add more things, and then you can always consistently, God, I'm like, see, if I had like a fancy editor and I like wanted to take the time, I'd probably edit all this out, but I don't. So y'all get this, but just start, and as you evolve, your methods, things will get better, but it just takes time too. So hopefully this was helpful. As usual, I try to keep these short and then they don't end up being short, but I should probably work on them being shorter. But again, this is just me, and I get really excited to talk about things that I care about, which is why I make videos about things that I care about. The day that you see me do a video and I'm just like, yeah, so I think, then I don't know, I'm either like a day out from a show or something's wrong and I'm not being myself. So when I do get excited and I do get passionate about these things, like I want everyone to understand where I'm coming from, even though it may be like from all over the place. So yeah, that was my business talk. Definitely do not try to say that I am a business person. I've learned over time to become more business minded. It is definitely a struggle. The other thing I'd recommend is having people who are mentors to you. And whether you know them personally or whether you don't know them, that's important. Or people who are just kind of in your corner. Like, you know, I don't know Gary Vee, obviously, but he has been so helpful for me because of what he puts out. I'm very lucky that my mom is a banker and she's a very business-minded person. So she's been in my corner since the beginning with this, helping me out. Ryan is very, very open-minded and is always trying to have us try new things and do new things for the business. And so he's a great person to bounce ideas off of. Paul, of course, like we are so close now, and we get to, you know, talk about different things and do things together and travel together. So, you know, I have these people in my corner right now that I can bounce ideas off of, and it's been so helpful to me. So have a core group of people, and even if they don't necessarily know what you're doing, having people in your corner that can help you, like, oh, that's a good idea, or no, that's not a good idea. Like I bounce ideas off my friends all the time, like, would you guys want to see this, or do you like that? And you know, so having people also in your corner as far as like advice or mentorship, whatever you want to call it, is also really important. So take all these things together, all my jumbled words, and hopefully that was helpful. And that is my business talk for y'all.